Welcome, everybody, to another Professional Witches. And I'm very excited today because we've got our first return guest. And I did promise she would be coming back. And she has been she was the first guest on this podcast. And so far has been the most popular watched episode of the entire series. So welcome back, Rachel Maria Bell, astrologer extraordinaire. Welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm very honoured to be returning and talking about the cosmic climate again.
It's always a pleasure to have you here. And yeah, I've had so many people with such lovely comments. Somebody was watching, a good friend of mine was watching, and she decided, based upon what we talked about, to call her new dog Chiron. So that's lovely.
Wow.
Shortened to Kai, when you call out, and it's perfect because she's Welsh, so it works out really nicely. But yeah, so we've got you back, and I did say let's see what's going on planetarily, if that's a word, for the
Yes.
coming period. And I think we need to get you on, like I say, on a fairly regular basis, because it's been like 2 to 3 months since you first were here. Things have happened since then, but you've got a few things that you want to tell us about / warn us about in the coming times. So yeah, what's going on right now? Give us the good news first,
Okay,
and
I'll
then
give you the
and
news.
yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Well,
So
it's never exactly good news, bad news, is it? There's
you,
always so much going on. And I know because at the moment I'm teaching this cosmic confidence course, and my learners are kind of like, oh my God, tell me this again. Oh, there's so much going on. Every day there's like, 8 celestial events happening. What does all this mean? How can we keep track of everything? So to be honest with you, Fiona, because I knew I was coming on here, I have been very much asking the cosmos for guidance about which are the big hitters that I need to share with your listeners.
mhm.
So the first one that I am very much guided to talk about is the fact that planet Neptune is at 29 degrees of Pisces, and it's there for the whole of 2024. Now, me living by the sea and the UK currently being under some variety of deluge is really bringing this to the fore at the moment for me. And, I love to see what the current physical signs are telling me that is mirrored in the cosmic climate. And okay, so here we go with what does this mean for us? And I think it's really, really relevant for the spiritual community. So, planet Neptune is at 29 degrees of Pisces. So, Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac. It's like the closing out, the completion of cycles, endings. And we all know intuitively what to do with endings, with
Mhm.
closures, with completions. And everything has its own life cycle. The leaf, the dog, the human being, like literally everything, yeah? Um, and planet Neptune takes 164 years to make its full journey around the sun. Now, none of us have been here in this life, in this body for 164 years. However, planet Neptune is closing out a 164-year cycle this year. And
Mhm.
next year, 2025, is going to be a whole new burst of energy when it comes to spirituality. And I feel like this will be music to our ears. Neptune ruling music as well. Okay. So there is a closing off to do. And there are many, many ways to interpret this. And the more spiritually awakened we are, the more that we are tuning into our higher heart, so the more loving vibrations that we're bringing to ourselves, to our lives, to others, to the way that we choose to process, the way that we're watching things play out in the collective. What we're trying to really do is bring conscious awareness to the fact that there is a closing off period now. So it's bringing our individual attention, and possibly in collaboration in groups, to what is ending now. What do we
Mhm.
feel like needs to stop, needs to
Right.
close off? And it might be more than we imagine. There might be some hidden things in our individual behaviour or in our collective behaviour or in what, say, the spiritual online community is doing. So, for example, for me, this is just a me thing, but what I notice is when I return to my own true nature, I know that I have 5 planets in retrograde. I am all about slowing down, reflective learning, reflective practice. So, of course, I get pissy and out of alignment when I see people who are properly blazing a trail and like going out there and being super corporate and competitive. And I'm like, slow down. It doesn't feel good to me. But maybe that's because I'm here to usher out a cycle, close off something that needs closing.
Mm,
And when we don't close those cycles fully, we run the risk of repeating the lesson again.
yeah.
And we're really being called to just slow down and do that. Let's just consciously get shut of what doesn't want to come with us from 2025 onwards. And it feels like a really important call. And
Mm,
yes, I might be banging a different drum to what other people are saying, because I know that there are a lot of people who are blazing a trail. They are literally trailblazers. They are light workers. They are going ahead. And we always need people who are leading the way, doing things in a very fearless way, standing up first, going first, leaping first. I'm also saying at this time we need to bring mindful closure.
mm. So it's a bit like a relationship that you get full closure on the last one before you go into the new one, so you don't repeat those same mistakes.
100%.
So,
Yeah,
like, make sure you're over your ex before you start the next relationship, kind of thing.
you
I mean,
got it.
globally, we're seeing a lot of change right now. And I think this last year in particular, there's been a big shift in the online spiritual community. And people have been coming forward to me and expressing an interest in my work. And you've probably seen the same, who you never would have thought would be into this kind of thing at all. And yet they're seeing lots of things, lots of signs to say, actually, there's more to the spirituality stuff
Mm.
than meets the eye. Um, but there's also, like you say, there's a lot of things closing out. A lot of like the corporate identity, the corporate kind of revolution.
Yeah.
Even that, they're having to do more remote working. They're less interested in getting people physically into an office for many, 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 many reasons.
Mm.
Um, but again, I feel like this corporate thing is starting to die a bit of a death in many ways. Not obviously we need to keep the lights on and we need computers and things like that, and that's all part of that. But there's more and more people who felt so displaced in that environment, in that world, that are now finding a place. Do you feel
Mm.
that that's a part of what's going on, or what other things could this be working on, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I do. I do think that there are a lot of changes in the workplace. I mean, I've seen that again, like you say, in the people who come to me. For sure, people who are coming for readings, I'm kind of like, wow, okay, you're really super spiritually awakened, as well as running this mainstream job. So yeah, for sure. So there will be these tidal shifts, and actually when we tune into the imagery of the ocean, it really helps us work with Neptune, because obviously Neptune is the god of the seas. I feel like, okay, there are so many different interpretations of what this closing out is, and bringing that awareness to what we're doing on collective levels, but not getting sucked into the tide of groupthink, because it's really important to remember that as we move into the age of Aquarius, we're all talking about, we're trying to focus on bringing our individual contribution, our individuality, our own skills. So there are so many dangers of going down that. It's almost like being sucked into a drowning style format of collective groupthink that doesn't actually serve anyone. Therefore, bringing that logic and clarity and scientific approach to the clarity behind our own spirituality and how we receive our information, how we process our information, how we do that, whether it's some people are talented with hands-on healing. Some people have a lot of visionary information come through to them. Some people receive in their body. And eliminating the fact that we all need to be the same, because quite frankly, we need to stand in our individuality. So, for example, just that old legacy programming of, because we want belonging, we have to be the same. No, that's for an example of a belief system that needs to go away with the tide. Let that go with the old tide. Let it go out.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know, there are certain things that we need a lot of in the world because there's a lot of work to do in that area, but also people need to celebrate. If you don't fit into one of these boxes, doesn't mean that you don't have a value. If you have something different, then that's actually very, very special. And I see so many people give up on their dreams because other people tell them that it's not going to happen because they don't understand it. Just because somebody doesn't understand something doesn't mean it doesn't have value, because other people will see it and they will see the value and they will be like, this is exactly what I need. So I really like to, I'm seeing sort of particles floating to the top, particles that didn't mix with the rest of the water are now rising.
I love that imagery. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of connection between love, because Neptune is the higher octave of Venus. That's what we call it. So it's like the higher heart. And it's love that we have for people we don't even know because they are human beings. It's love that we have for animals because they are sentient beings with a soul. It's love because it's love, right? So tuning into those emotional waters, and what a perfect time to do it when the sun is in Cancer, in this Cancer season. What a beautiful time to tune into genuine emotional space holding and the intersection of how we bring that deep emotional capacity to spirit as well. And again, it's that if we consider spirit to be one thing, then we're making a grave error, right? Because as above, so below. Well, there's a lot going on below. Therefore, everything is also on the other side. There is a heck of a lot of different energy going on there. So what are we tuning into? What are we making of it? And let's just be careful that we're not being all regimented and routine about that. So we're not kind of going, no, you're wrong because you're not processing information in the same way as me. Actually, let's just let everyone be.
Yeah, absolutely. And say, that's an interesting perspective. It may not be how I see things, but I'm interested to know why you see things that way. Or, and I think the traditional way that we've been kept safe in this world is by not trusting people we don't know. But how about we flip that on its head and have love for everyone as the default? And then if somebody proves themselves untrustworthy, okay, fine, we deal with that. But you know, I've in my life approached people who had been traditionally untrustworthy, and my approach to them has meant that they've behaved in a good and honorable way towards me. But people react, people mirror, don't they? So if somebody comes up to you and is a bit like that, then you're going to kind of be a bit like that back. But if they come up to you with an openness and a trust, then that's what they reflect back to you. So maybe this is a part of what needs to end to move us into the next.
Absolutely. And also, like Neptune and Pisces, it's all connected with 12th house, which is all about shadow. Because when we're closing something off, it's that shadow that we don't normally look at, or we don't want to look at, something that's taboo. So, you know, we think about things like prisons. Okay. So the people who are being held confined in prisons, there will be so many people there who have felt like they've been cast out by society. They're not worthy. The actions that they've committed, our society has decided that they need to put him behind bars. Wow, okay, we're probably due for a wholesale rethink on a lot of that. The other forms of institutionalization as well, you know, medicating people because they've got different viewpoints, sectioning people who may be part way through a huge spiritual process, let's be honest. I think that you know, there's a lot that we're ready to bring up and out and hold space for in a really different way, and to have different views about.
Yeah. And that is exciting. That is very
Yeah,
exciting, if you ask me.
good. Yes, I would agree with that. A quick note on this, Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces, people who were born in 1968-ish, check your birth chart, will have Chiron around 29 degrees of Pisces. So if you're having, you will therefore be having a transit, because planet Neptune, that's moving very slowly, is therefore conjunct and moving over those people's natal Chiron, and that will be reactivating their wounding. So some things to feel into if any listeners were born in 1968. Where has your spirit not been allowed to be your, you know, your listened to, validated? Where have you felt like you couldn't be your true self? And it's time to allow that wounding to be washed away now, so that they can become the healer that they were born to be. And that will feel really quite triggering and possibly confusing, because Neptune can bring layers and veils of deception, confusion, illusion. So it can feel quite gentle, but also confusing, where it's really easy to just blind yourself or drown your sorrows, those kind of things. It's not a rude awakening. It's more like you're just slowly drowning. That's a Neptune for you. And anyone who has a birthday round about the sort of 17th, 18th, 19th of March, or 20th of March, they will have their sun at 29 degrees of Pisces. Therefore, they are having a Neptune conjunct sun transit. So again, that will feel quite like they're supposed to be seeing themselves more clearly. It's time to take off the veils.
Exciting. Scary exciting, probably, when you're experiencing that, but it's always good. It's the scary things, the difficult things always reveal much more at the end of them. They're just corridors, scary dark corridors, but at the end of it is amazingness. So
I love that. Yeah.
awesome. So that's the good news.
Yes, that's the more gentle,
Yeah.
flowing concept. Yeah. So,
So there's
hmm,
another one that you want to kind of warn us about in
I
a
feel
way.
terrible saying the warning. Oh, it's like we need some kind of beacon.
Forewarned is forearmed. Trigger warnings. Okay, right. Hold on to your knickers. We're about
Okay.
to find out.
So this one's coming up really soon, like next week. So between the 15th and 20th of July, we have a much more potentially explosive, completely different energy to the one that I just talked about. So planet Mars and planet Uranus are going to be conjunct each other. That means meeting together at the same portion of the sky. Obviously, they're not going to meet together because they're like very
Mm,
far apart, actually. But
absolutely.
yeah, they're going to be
From our
crossing
perspective, they'll be in the same
same
zone.
portion of the sky. Yes. So, and that will occur, drum roll,
No.
at also at the same point as fixed star Algol. Right, so this is around about 26 degrees of Taurus. Now, for those who have been following astrology, planet Uranus has been really dragging itself through Taurus for quite a long time now, and we've had a lot. I'm sure I've talked about that enough in other places, in other times. Now we have Mars, Uranus, and Algol all about to sit together. Okay, so you and I know that when we're dealing with the expression of any of these planets, we get to choose how we respond to these expressions. So, because I'm about to tell you about this, then anybody who listens before the 15th to 20th of July has the opportunity to work with this energy and to pay attention and to choose to Mars, place our energy and action
Mhm.
into Uranus, our higher dimensional thinking. So, Uranus is where we get to agree to work with our soul level knowing. It's where we say, I trust the spirit information that I receive, I act upon it. So, it's very, very potentially powerful in an extremely quick, fast moving, let's move forward with this and take the bull by the horns. Might as
Mm.
well use Taurus
Why not?
imagery.
Why not? Is with
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, this could be super powerful for taking action on your values, your money, in love, because we're working with Taurus. So it's all values that we have, and it's our self-worth. It's what we accept in exchange for what we give out. So in the whole give and, what's mine, what's yours, what do I receive for this thing that I give? All of that realm, we get to bring a whole new level of conscious awareness, Uranus. So if we get blasted by this, oh, I suddenly see what to do with that, great, because planet Mars is giving us the gumption to go, and that's what I decide to charge. And that's how I decide to reframe my self-worth as a spiritual being. Yeah. So
Hmm.
we get to do all this. This is super. This is the best way that you can use this energy. However, not everybody is working at the same level of perceptual awareness and raising of consciousness throughout this planet. That's okay. That's just a fact. We're not always ever going to be exactly the same. So planet Mars is ruled by the god of war, let's be honest. So it's sometimes where we can take aggressive action. So be careful about cutting people down, because Mars also rules knives. So let's not be too cutthroat, maybe. We might see cutthroat actions. We might see spontaneous war consciousness energy play out.
Mm.
Uranus rules spontaneous sudden events. So if we suddenly see in the news that something's like really kicked off and it's a bit of a war energy about it, we're probably not going to be that surprised, let's be honest. Okay.
Mm.
but we can choose to, well, we can choose to behave in exactly whatever way we feel is right for us, right?
Absolutely.
However, we can choose not to give that our energy.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to add to it. And if we are in massive resistance to it, resistance is also war consciousness, because resistance says, I'm here to fight that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Which is really interesting. Your response to something like that is always vital. I know a lot of people in previous, because in the last, let's be honest, recent years, especially with the way the news is so instant, we get to find out about tragic global, what would the word be? Events very, very quickly, and people can get sucked. I've known people get sucked down that rabbit hole, and it's not been healthy at all for them. People constantly watching this stuff for hours each day, and it can lead to a form of PTSD, like what they call like vicarious PTSD. And it's not helpful for anybody. It doesn't help the situation. It doesn't help the person. The only thing it does help is YouTube viewing figures and advertising on YouTube. That goes through the roof at these times. But it's okay. Let's take a moment to step back. What does this mean for me? And what can I do with my situation, my gifts, to help the people? Because at the end of the day, it's always about people, isn't it? People are doing this, people are suffering from these things. What can you do to alleviate that suffering, to send out loving energy to the situation? You know, I always felt much more empowered when I decided that I was going to do something positive towards a situation like this. And one of those things is actually not to give it my fear energy. So not watching constant videos about it, and not kind of getting very, very depressed about the whole situation. It's not about not caring. It's not about not having compassion. It's just about not having that dread and building the fear, because our energy vibrates throughout the universe. So the energy you put into something makes a big difference to the outcomes and everything. So yeah, just
Absolutely.
some thoughts on that, really.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. I was going to say it's adding fear to what has already come from a big fat dose of fear, and that can't ever have a good outcome.
No.
The outcome is never going to be love from that, right?
No.
And also, I would go a little bit further to say that whatever our own truthful response is, if we bring our own truthful response, whatever feels right for us, intuitively, deeply, heartfelt right, we also don't get to pour judgment on what other people choose to do.
No.
Because that's adding a whole other pile of negativity as well. I actually have my own response to certain events that happen in the world, and I choose to keep them private. And partly that's because I've got a really specific set of gifts and I use them in a really specific way. And I don't intend to teach them. I think it's me. I think I just use my gifts in my way. And I wouldn't really want anybody to get the wrong end of the stick either. But there are ways in which I choose to help, you know, in my own way. And I think that's okay. You know, because of that, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to tell anybody else what to do. I do my own thing. And I trust other people to do their own thing. and to positively contribute to the energy on Earth in the best way, in the highest good for all. And when we really trust each other to do that, I think that's enough.
Mm. Absolutely. And trust is a big part of that. Trust is crucial to that love energy. Love and trust, not fear and what's the opposite of trust? Distrust? I'm not sure. My brain's not throwing up the right word, but you get the idea.
Yeah,
The opposite.
it's like that doubt and suspicion,
Yeah, absolutely.
or a
And
fear of
opposition,
future outcomes.
division, all of those
Mm,
things. They I think those are one of those things that are starting to close out from what we spoke about earlier, actually, is that division. And more people are saying, I'm a citizen of Earth rather than I'm
yes,
a citizen of this particular land.
yeah.
We don't actually own the land. It's like it's complete illusion. And yeah, okay, you
Oh,
buy a house and you buy this plot of land and you have a fence and everything. I don't know. I think I this whole kind of colonization attitude of
mm.
people is
It's a
yeah.
thing that's ready to go. For sure.
Mm,
I totally agree with you. That is one of the beliefs that we're ready to let go of. I mean, because we've spoken about this before, but when you're a person who's able to see your own past lives and you know that you've lived in many different lands, it just
mhm,
makes a mockery of having
yeah,
patriotism at all, really.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And when you see what patriotism does in the division sense, yeah,
Mm.
it's not no judgment to those who feel
Yeah,
proud of their land. You've got to feel proud of
yeah,
something, but
yeah, yeah.
it's I don't feel particularly helpful. It's one of those things that creates division,
Mm.
separation, this illusion that we're different. And we are
Mhm.
different, but we're also the same. So
Yes.
so
Mm.
to round things out, you have a third thing, which actually for the purposes of time, you've got something that people can go and find out much more about on this. So tell us what this third and final thing is. And
Yes. So
yeah.
I wanted to mention that planet Saturn has gone into retrograde for the next 4 months, and it's probably because my own natal Saturn is right on my midheaven. I feel like the spokesperson for Saturn. But 29th of June, Saturn basically juddered to a halt and then went retrograde. I experienced it like the turning of a juggernaut. I actually felt that energy. And Saturn covers many, many different areas of our lives. And it's really important because it's the time-based aspects. It's where we take discipline, responsibility. It's where we put in hard work and effort over the long range into plans that we really feel matter. Because you'll know that you can't put long range, serious hard work and effort into something that doesn't matter, because the energy just doesn't work. You can't physically make yourself do it. So yeah, basically I put a masterclass together. It's a half-hour transmission, which is like a mix between journal prompts, activations, explanation of what's going on. But this is a really, really amazing time to almost like, the game of Jenga, where you've got all the different building blocks and you're kind of taking out a piece and trying to make the thing still stand up.
Yeah.
We're doing that. We're taking out the rotten pieces of the foundations of our lives that don't actually belong there anymore,
Mhm.
and seeing what holds up now. What
Mm.
are the foundation pieces that remain? And because planet Saturn is in the sign of Pisces, again, Pisces, It's all about spirituality. So it feels so hard. It's like building a temple in the sea. We're trying to create foundations and we're going, but it's all sea. It's all chaos. And we have to call ourselves out and say, no, it's not. The soul, the eternal soul, is the foundation of our lives. How do we build from soul alignment? Come on, we can do it.
I am minded of the tarot card of the Tower in this. When
Oh,
the Tower
yeah.
shows up in a reading, astrology meets tarot right here.
Yeah.
The Tower card is about the long-held beliefs and patterns that you've held, maybe physical, maybe metaphysical, come crashing to the ground for you to rebuild with stronger, more appropriate foundations. So if, say, a tower is in the sea, okay, so pouring concrete piles in the sea is not going to help. What you want is a
Yep.
flotation base. But if
Yep.
you are building on the sand, yeah, you want to drill down to find rock and then pour your concrete, and then your tower will be more strong. So it's all about finding what's appropriate for your particular situation with that.
Yeah.
So we've actually got an
Yeah.
astrological tower moment happening.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. It really is just, when we put ourselves soul first, when we know ourselves inside out, and all of the indicators are written right there in our birth chart and in who we are and who we know ourselves to be on the deepest, most intuitive level. Knowing who we are, we then get to say, what do the successful foundation pieces of my life look like? Let's go from there. And anything that remains that actually is society's conditioning, goodbye. Bye-bye now.
Yes. Yes. That's so much the work that I've been doing. I had a client earlier today, and this is exactly what we've been doing, is peeling off those layers that don't belong to them, don't belong to you. What is you and what is what other people put on you? Because
Yeah.
that needs to go. You
Yes.
know, well-meaning people still put unhelpful stuff onto you, and it's not their fault. They do things from a place of love, but it's your choice whether you take it or not.
Yeah.
So that's
Absolutely.
really interesting. Wow. Okay. So lots for people to journal on there.
Yeah, have fun.
Good luck with that. Well, if you need any help with that, there's always me, there's always Rachel. We're here for you guys to help you navigate this stuff. Rachel does have, like you say, you have a masterclass on that very Saturn retrograde piece. And we will pop the link to join that in the show notes, along with all the other links of how to get hold of Rachel. If you want to get hold of me, my link is always in the main podcast bit. Well, the writing about me is there. So yeah, awesome. Fear not, we will get Rachel back in a few months to tell us what else the F is going on in the universe. Because it's always
Next time it Next time it will be Pluto. Oh my gosh, when Pluto gets back into
goodness.
Capricorn, we're going to have the most fun. But yeah, thank you so much for asking me to come on again today.
Well, thank you for coming back. And yeah, I will also link the other episode from Rachel, because that was a general astrology chat more, wasn't it? We did talk about what was going on at the time, but also it's interesting to take that look at when it was released and look at what was going on in your life at that time and what that all meant, because even retrospectively there are things to learn. Okay, so that really horrible thing happened, but planetarily this was happening, and I thought it meant that, but actually it was about this, and so lots to be learned from it. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Rachel, once again, and thank you everybody for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, do please subscribe, like the episode, leave a comment about what you thought and what this all means for you, and share it with your friends as well, because everyone needs to know this stuff so we know what's going on. Thanks again, Rachel.
Thanks so much.
See you all next time, viewers. Bye-bye.